Thank you for joining us with this session from Albireo Pharmaceuticals with Christine Clemson. She is the head of global medical affairs there at Albireo. And Christine, go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Roberta. Thank you, Cher. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. And I do want to just give a little plug that at 2:30, the medical director for the Alagille study, ASSERT, that I'll describe very briefly, will be at the booth. So any questions I can't answer or any deep questions that you have, Jessica can take those for you. But I'll get started. I'm Christine Clemson. I lead the Global Medical Affairs Department for Albireo. And we have a drug called odevixibat that is, the brand name is Bylvay. As you'll hear, we are about to get approval in the US and Europe for PFIC. And so the drug formerly known as A4250 or odevixibat will be referred to as Bylvay, but I'll probably drop back and forth between both names. So in case you don't know who Albireo is, we're a small biotech company, and we're clinical stage right now, but soon to be a commercial stage company as well. And we focus on the development of novel bile acid modulators to treat rare pediatric and adult liver diseases. Our mission is we really strive to provide hope for families, and we want to be leading in the science in cholestatic liver disease. We were founded in 2008 with approximately 100 employees, but we're growing quite a lot since then. We have 17 years of experience and expertise in bile acid modulation science. As I said, we focus on rare cholestatic liver diseases, and we're pioneering next generation bile acid transport inhibitors, along with some other drugs in our pipeline. We have a variety of research programs ongoing right now. We have the PEDFIC-1 and PEDFIC-2 studies in PFIC, and they're the first and largest global randomized placebo-controlled phase 3 clinical trials in patients with PFIC. We have the biliary atresia study called the BOLD study, and it's initiated and enrolling right now, and it's the first global randomized placebo-controlled phase 3 clinical trial of odevixibat in biliary atresia. And more relevant for this audience is our ASSERT study, which is initiated and enrolling a global randomized placebo-controlled phase 3 trial of odevixibat or Bylvay in Alagille syndrome. Very exciting and a very busy time for us as well as we plan for the launch of PFIC any day now. The way the FDA works is they grant you a PDUFA date, which is a date that they expect to give you the decision by, and our PDUFA date is July 20th, which is Tuesday, and we fully expect to hear from the FDA on or around then. We've also expecting to hear in Europe soon, maybe next week or the week after, on approval of odevixibat or Bylvay in Europe for PFIC. And then, of course, we have ongoing studies in Alagille syndrome and biliary atresia, and I'll talk to you about those timelines on the next slide. So as I said, we have an area of current focus is PFIC, biliary atresia, and Alagilles, but we have other drugs in the pipeline, potentially for PBC and PBC, as well as some viral diseases and other cholestatic diseases. So where are we in the development of these programs? With odevixibat, as we've said, we expect approval and launch any day now. Biliary atresia, we expect to fully enroll and to announce data in the next couple years. The Alagille study, the ASSERT study, is currently enrolling at 35 global sites, and we expect to be fully enrolled and have the top line data readout sometime next year. So what is Bylvay or odevixibat? As I said, it's a drug previously known as A4250. And it's a drug that you can take orally, and you can either swallow the capsules or you can open them up and sprinkle them on food. It's a reversible, potent, and selective inhibitor of the ileal bile acid transport. And it's minimally absorbed, meaning it's not really detected in the blood. It really works in the intestine, and it's ultimately excreted in the feces. What does IBAT inhibition do? So if you look here at the liver, where bile acids are created, and when you eat, they're excreted, and they go into the intestine. One of the issues that happens in many of these cholestatic diseases is the bile acids often are retained in the liver, and they can be very toxic. And what odevixibat does is it disrupts the transport back from the intestine to the liver. And so what happens is the bile acids, instead of returning to the liver like they typically do, we reduce the burden on the liver by allowing those bile acids to be excreted and not return to the liver. This return, or this process going back to the liver, is called the enterohepatic circulation. And in short, odevixibat disrupts that. And why is this important? It's important because we know that when you lower serum bile acids, it's been shown that for many diseases, when you lower serum bile acids, you have a greater likelihood that you're going to reduce symptoms like pruritus. You're going to reduce things that can cause liver disease, and you're more likely to not need a liver transplant. And we don't have any data specifically showing that odevixibat can do this long term in Alagille's patients. But what we do have is we have some short-term studies, phase 2 studies we've just published, that show data in 6 Alagille syndrome patients where we effectively lower the serum bile acid in those patients and reduce pruritus. So this is the basis for why we're embarking upon our larger phase 3 clinical study called ASSERT, which I'll go through now. So what is it? It's a phase 3 study, and that means it's a pivotal study, which means that the regulatory agencies have agreed, in theory, that the protocol that we've designed and the data we expect to get will allow us to get approval in Alagille syndrome. So what we expect is we expect to enroll about 45 subjects. Patients of any age with genetically confirmed diagnosis of Alagille's can be included. You have to have a history of significant pruritus, and you have to have elevated serum bile acids. If you're enrolled in the study, it's a 24-week treatment or 6 months treatment, and you'll be enrolled in a 2-to-1 randomization to either odevixibat at 120 micrograms per kilogram per day, and we expect to have 30 patients in that group, or a placebo group. And it's a 2-to-1 randomization, so there are only 15 patients being placed on placebo. And of course, you won't know which treatment group you're on. The primary endpoint is a change from baseline and scratching to month 6, as measured by Albireo's ASSERT instrument, which is a validated instrument that detects changes in pruritus as reported by the caregiver. Of course, there'll be a follow-up for safety, and we'll have an optional enrollment, open label extension for patients who are in the study who can go on to the longer term study. And as we've said, there are about 35 global sites that will be initiated. So We're currently enrolling. The purpose is to investigate odevixibat to find how well it works compared to placebo. And it will also investigate the safety and tolerability of the drug. As we said, patients of any age with your native liver, diagnosed genetically with Alagille, with a history of significant pruritus. The study doctor will review the full requirements and help you understand whether the study is appropriate for you or your child. There's a screening period of 56 days at first to ensure that you meet the enrollment criteria. That's then followed by a 24-week treatment period and a safety follow-up period. And then, as I've said, an option to enroll in a longer-term extension. If you're interested in the study, here are the expectations. 2 screening visits to initially establish your eligibility. And if you are eligible, you'll receive either odevixibat or placebo, taken once daily for 24 weeks. Every morning and evening, you'll record in an electronic diary the instances and severity of itching, scratching, and problems sleeping for you, yourself, or your child. And then there'll be an end of treatment visit. And when you go in for your treatment visits, you'll have lab tests, you or your child will have lab tests, physical exams, and other assessments and questionnaires that will be conducted. There are no costs to you for the study drug, study supply, or tests that are part of the research study. So now I'll just briefly show you the study locations. So we have 2 sites in the UK, 4 sites in France, a site in Poland, a site in Belgium, 4 sites in Germany, 4 sites in Italy, 2 sites in the Netherlands, many sites in the US, of course, a site in Canada, Israel, 2 sites in Israel, 2 sites in Turkey, a site in Malaysia, and a site in New Zealand. So that ends my presentation on Albireo and the ASSERT study. I do want to point out and thank the patients and the parents who are involved in the studies. Albireo can't accomplish what we're trying to accomplish without the commitment from the patients and the families. And we just want to express our sincere gratitude for being a part of the research program. And with that, I'll stop and take any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Christine. Any questions at all?
Hey, this is Jay, and I'm a pharmacist, and I just had a quick question about the study. So whenever you're taking children and adults in that ASSERT, how young is too young? Is it just a confirmation of diagnosis and you meet the other criteria? Or I haven't looked at the clinicaltrials.gov to see if it's like greater than 2 years old, or and I can certainly do that. I just was real curious.
It's a great question, and one that I'm getting confused with our other studies. So let me check into that, and I can certainly get back to you on that. Or Jessica, I'm not sure if Jessica's on the present, is currently in this session, and maybe she could answer that. Jessica, are you on?
Sure, Christine.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if you can hear me. This is Jessica.
We can hear you. Thank you.
And
thank you for being my phone a friend.
No problem. And I will be I wanted to say manning the booth, but actually I'm not a man, so I will be
You'll be dominating the
booth.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, there's no lower limit. Patient has to be 4 kilograms in order to be in the study, because that is what our drug can dose. But there's no inclusion criteria or exclusion criteria based on age.
Perfect. Thank you.
And really appreciate those of you who are commenting that you are actually have children in the study. This is wonderful to hear, and thank you for being part of it.
It's important to point out that adults can join this with no age restriction, which is really an awesome thing for the adults here. Was somebody trying to say something? Please know that you can go to the auditorium, or not the auditorium, but back to the lobby and click on the exhibit hall. And once you are in the exhibit hall, you'll find Albireo's exhibit there, or their booth. You can click on that and then contact them, and you'll be able to reach Jess directly. I think it does it. How long will you be in the booth, Jess?
I'll be here until 4 p.m. Eastern. So
Okay.
about an hour and a half.
Awesome. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to go in there. They're great to talk to, give you all sorts of information. And if there aren't any more questions, should we take a break until 3 o'clock?
Sounds good.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
So
Thank you,
much.
Sharon and Roberta. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Christine.